Interesting to me. Let me ask you, as a viewer of the show, what is valuable? What is the essence of valuable to you? The essence of valuable to me is when fit hits the shan, who do you rely on? Dad, mom, wife, husband, boss, friend. Valuable is when life is imperfect, when life creates obstacles. Who do you rely on? I'm not into the blame game. Can't speak for Christine. I can speak for me. I've had all sorts of things happen in my career. All sorts of things. I could point and point and point. But in the end, that's just it's a tiring, exhausting process because I got to get stuff fixed. So to me, when life goes wrong and sideways, my whole thing is, okay, I got to get it fixed. Who do I rely on? Whoever I rely on is valuable to me. Let me give you an example. There's a married couple. The husband, in a 9-month period, the husband loses a job. The parents discover one of their kids has a learning disability at school. That's a crisis. Family pet dies. Believe me, I've had that twice. Mother-in-law moves in, and the car gets stolen in October out of the driveway. 9 months. But yet the wife holds it together. That is the essence of valuable. We always struggle in sports. What does valuable mean? Is it about stats? It is about valuable to me. The essence is everything goes sideways. Some of it may be your fault. Some of it may be your fault. But can you hold it together? An NBA team this year lost Kyrie Irving. He was traded. Isaiah Thomas was injured upon arrival. Then Isaiah created a rift with the second-best player on the team, Kevin Love. Kevin Love then got hurt, and then the coach had to take a leave of absence. And if the Cavs win tonight, they will win the same number of games last year. Is that not valuable? If the Cavs win tonight, and I would say with Philadelphia's emergence, the East is equally as tough as last year. Kyrie Irving lost, Isaiah Thomas hurt, Isaiah Love fracture, Kevin out, coach out. Let me ask you, I'm just asking for a friend. Let me ask you, in Houston, if Chris Paul gets traded this year, if a new player comes in and struggles with Harden not getting touches, if Mike D'Antoni's out for a month with a health issue, Clint Capella for Houston gets injured, and there's a major midseason roster reboot. Think the Rockets win 65 again next year? Okay. All right. Harden quit last year in the playoffs. So when you go to valuable, what is the essence of valuable to you? It has always been to me when my life goes sideways, and oh God, it has a lot. It has a lot. Who do I rely on? Who is my rock? Who do I grab? Who gets me out of there? Some of it's just me, but those are the valuable people. Who was the friend I called? Who was the person I called? Who was the parent I called? Look at the obstacles the Cavs have had this year. I'm not saying LeBron didn't create some of them. He is not easy. This year he's become self-congratulatory LeBron. But look at all the things he has dealt with. And they're going to win the same number of games? Come on now. You tell me who in American sports is more valuable than that. Christine, the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
Well, the Jazz are currently third in the West, and as you mentioned, they did blow out the Warriors last night, 119-79. And Steve Kerr's kind of been getting on the Warriors lately.
Yes.
Questioning their character, but then he backtracked a bit.
He did?
Yeah, and now he's saying that he thinks this is all just psychological. So pay attention.
Okay.
We need the competitive spirit. We need the juice. We need the joy. And we haven't had much of that. And so we got to get right. We got to get our minds right. And that's what I told him.
By the way, isn't it weird, Christine? So in the last week, I mean, Utah's a good team. Utah's really a good team.
Yeah, they're third in the West.
And they beat them by 40. But
Yeah.
Indiana last week crushed them by 30. It's not they're losing. They're getting rolled.
I really just don't think this is a big deal.
Right.
And just exactly what Steve Kerr said is that they're not playing really kind of into it right now.
All right.
And would you? I mean, they've been there how many times at this point, and they know they're going to.
By the way,
cruise, but kind of cruise through the West.
LeBron's going to his 8th straight final. This is something I've said. Fatigue is a real thing. Emotional fatigue is
Right, so maybe they're just kind of taking it easy.
It'd be
Towards
different,
the
though.
end of the
Do
season.
they have to lose by 40
The Cavs were down by 30.
and lost by 2?
Yeah, they tried to come back, but I would argue it's not worth exerting yourself at that point. You
All
might
right.
as well just take the loss.
Okay.
The L. Do you remember the day you explained to me what an L was in the makeup room? That was the most hysterical thing you've ever done.
Right. You just take an L.
What does take an L mean?
Just in life, sometimes you just take a loss. You walk into a date, you walk into a
And then
meeting,
you bounce back.
you take a loss.
You're going to love this. So Josh Rosen, he comes from a very privileged family and background, and so there's been some questions about how into football he is and if it really is his number one priority. And he was asked a question about this, and his answer is alarming to some people. Here's what he said. My family isn't like stupid wealthy, but I'm coming from a place where if football doesn't work out, I don't have to work at McDonald's. Other NFL players had the same opportunities. I just haven't tried to hide it or fool teams into thinking I'm someone I'm not. My passion for this game lies in the game, not my need to play it. Tons of players needed this game, needed the money, played it out of obligation and burned out. I don't need it, and still I give everything to it. So I think that
It doesn't bother me.
It doesn't bother me either. I think the McDonald's thing, some people were kind of upset about, like, oh, I wouldn't have to go work at McDonald's.
Well, no, I don't think anybody dreams of working at a fast food place. I think he's being honest.
I agree. I don't see
By the
any
way,
problem with it at all.
Christine, I could be crazy here, but this idea that if you come from money, you can't be successful. Steph Curry, I mean, a lot of these NBA players had NBA dads. They had a lot more money than I did or you did as a kid.
Yeah, it just kind of comes from, where does your motivation come from, right?
You know, that's
a lot
a fair
of people
question.
Without a lot of money, they feel like they want to make as much money as they can because they didn't have it and they're afraid of not having it.
Right.
But you can find other sources of motivation even if your family
By the way,
has a lot
John
of money.
Elway's family was successful. The Curry family. If you go look around pro sports now, Peyton Manning's family, his dad was an NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
This idea that Josh Rosen comes from some money, so if you come from money, athletes in the last 30 years have made so much. Virtually half of the NBA athletes come from somebody that was in the league and made good money.
There's something to be said about a chip on your shoulder. A lot of times
I
that can
totally
come
agree.
from money.
That I agree with.
But there are, like, I have a chip on my shoulder. You have a chip on your shoulder
Right.
for reasons other than money.
Right.
Right?
There's a lot of chips.
Lots of chips.
Yeah, if poor and wanting to escape is a chip, good for you.
Exactly.
But by the way, Josh Rosen, Aaron Rodgers came from a family that did fine. His chip was, I had to go to junior college. A lot of times the
Yep.
chip is I drop in the draft. It's not about money.
Yeah, I agree. And finally, this is the most oddest story that I think we will have all week. Robert Kraft was visiting Meek Mill in prison. Do you know who Meek Mill is?
Isn't he a musician that
He's a rapper.
wrongly accused?
Well, not wrongly. So he's in jail. He's serving a 2 to 4 year sentence for parole violation. He's got quite the long list of offenses.
Okay.
His Wikipedia section and legal issues.
Okay.
Quite long.
All right.
So he is in jail, and I'll go into this after we hear from Robert Kraft. But Kraft is visiting him in jail, and he's really impressed by him.
Why this person?
He's an amazing young man. I know how I'd feel if I were in the situation he is. Every time I see him, I just come away more impressed. He's very intelligent and makes it clear to me we have to do something with criminal justice reform.
So there's a whole thing, and I know you're a little confused right now of like what this.
I
has
just
to
don't
do
know
with anything.
why Meek Mill. What's the connection?
So Meek Mill, there's a whole movement like Free Meek Mill.
Okay,
That
okay.
he is in jail for too long. The 2 to 4 year sentence is too harsh
All right.
for his crimes.
Okay.
So people are saying that it's not fair.
Okay.
So I think that Robert Kraft is trying to get in on the Free Meek Mill movement. I mean, you take a look at his rap sheet. Some of the highlights of it, though, were that he was He was originally arrested when he was 18 for illegally possessing a firearm and assaulting the police. He was put on probation then. Then in 2008, drug dealing and gun possession. He also posted recently on social media that led to death threats to his judge.
What? Time out. These are not allegations. These
no,
are.
They're true.
Okay, well.
So he's basically what happens is he gets in trouble and then he violates his parole in a number of different ways.
So why has he become the person everybody's fighting for? Is it a movement on Twitter or something?
It's beyond Twitter.
Okay.
It's become a really, really big deal. I just find it interesting that Robert, I mean, regardless of where you stand, whether he should be in jail right now or should not, that Robert Kraft is getting so involved in this.
That's interesting. I can't figure out the connection.
Because we talked a lot about social justice issues in this past NFL season.
Yeah, that's a good point. An NFL owner wants to say, hey, see?
Look at me going to visit. And he has nothing to do with football. He's a rapper. I mean, they play rap, but...
Yeah. It's
something to think about.
Something I'm going to read about after the show. Well, it's just interesting to me. There's a lot of tentacles to this story.
Well, I'm glad that you find it interesting because I wasn't sure if you were going to like that one.
Christine with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Via the Coward Global Satellite from beautiful New York in the studio. First things first, Nick Wright is joining me. By the way, I said this. We know there's bias in the media. People pick and choose who they like and who they don't like. The Warriors are a mess. Crickets. Why? Who's to blame? Why?
Well, just real quick before I get to that, there might be some bias from one of our friends in the media, Christine Leahy, against Meek Mill. Free Meek, Christine. Read the allegations. Read the parole violations. Robert Kraft's doing a great thing here.
All right.
Colin, you and I will have a powwow after the show. You will be a part of that movement as well. However, I digress. Let's talk about the Golden State Warriors for a second. Okay. A team that's 1-9 in their last 10 games against playoff teams without Steph Curry. A team that I understand why the team as a whole could be exhausted from the 3 straight finals appearances. But you know who shouldn't be? Kevin Durant, who's only been to 1 straight finals appearance. When Steph goes down, it is totally fair to say if Steph doesn't come back, this team is no longer a championship favorite. But to go from championship favorite with Steph to 7-10 in your last 17, when you are now down to, oh, woe is me, 3 future Hall of Famers, is an abomination. And it is an indictment on a guy who people go on television regularly and argue is the best basketball player in the world.
Absurd.
I understand that Kevin Durant... I understand one of the reasons Durant wanted to go to Golden State was because he didn't want to have the leadership onus put on him. That's his prerogative. To quote him in his Bill Simmons podcast, he wants to hoop and play video games. And good luck, God bless. I'm happy for you, man. That is an amazing life. But you owe it to the team and the organization in this month when Steph is out to say, fellas, I got this. Maybe I can't do this for 82 games, but I can do it for 8 games. And the idea that the Warriors, they will just flip a switch come the playoffs, it's not like the Cavs last year. The Cavs flipped the switch on and off with the same group of people. They needed to create, I believe, some confidence that we're still awesome even without Stephen Curry. They have created none of that confidence. And one last point on this. Let's keep in mind that the Golden State Warriors ownership this summer wouldn't even give Steph a no-trade clause in his contract. They decided, no, you're valuable, but you're not valuable enough for us to give you exactly what you want. What this last month has shown me, do you know what the Golden State Warriors the last 3.5 years have been? The Steph Curry show with a whole bunch of supporting actors, of which, evidently, Kevin Durant is one.
By the way, why, and I understand politically, if you're a Democrat, you're going to take one side, or your worldview is from one angle. If a conservative, it's another. But in sports, I've always just here's the games. Let's watch them. Give me some data. This is what's happening. When the sports media in the NBA All-Star voting or in the MVP voting, it appears to be just fatigued with Michael Jordan, they choose Malone. Fatigued with LeBron, they choose Derrick Rose. Fatigued to some degree this year, James Harden. Why, though? Why the pass with Kevin Durant? We don't give a lot of players in this league a pass. Kevin Durant gets a pass.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it started in OKC when everything that went wrong was blamed on Russell Westbrook. And I'm not naming names on who might have been a part of that, but maybe you can connect the dots. But then it followed to Golden State. Now, the thing was this. There was nothing to criticize KD for last year. The guy was awesome. He got hurt. He came back awesome. He was spectacular in the NBA Finals. He hit the biggest shot of the Finals. He won Finals MVP. But since then, forget even all the off-the-court stuff. Forget all the blog boys' comments. Forget the inconsistencies. Forget the ejections and the technicals and the general discontent. You got to be better than you've been.
Yeah.
You cannot, when Steph goes out, have this team go from the best team in the world, the most talented team ever, to a team that has a negative point differential. You cannot. How about this? KD, remember beginning of the year? Oh my God, one of the reasons he's better than LeBron. He's this amazing two-way player. He might be Defensive Player of the Year. Since March 1st, with KD, Draymond, and Klay Thompson on the court together, those three without Steph, they have what would be the league's worst defense. What are you talking about, man? Draymond is the Defensive Player of the Year. KD was supposed to be close, and Klay's excellent. Like, someone's got to take accountability for that. Kevin Durant got criticized once his entire time in OKC. They called him Mr. Unreliable. And the paper printed an apology the next day. I hold my NBA superstars to a very high standard. And KD is supposed to be the second best player in the world. The Warriors should have no problem in round one. And all of a sudden, we're watching games tonight like, oh, could Minnesota give them trouble? Good thing they avoided the Thunder in round one. Like, that's ridiculous.
By the way, Carmelo Anthony admitted that the OKC Thunder goose stats for Westbrook. I want to play you a tape. This is Carmelo Anthony being incredibly authentic and honest here.
It's good because to have a guard like that, being able to crack back and get rebounds, and he still rebounds sometimes, but.
You mentioned stealing rebounds and you kind of joke about it, but
he steals.
Yeah. But
Oh, interesting. So are you okay with that?
Okay
with that? You're okay with that?
Yeah. Of course I'm okay with it. It's just like I'm going to pull back the curtain for the audience a little bit. Guess what? I talked to one of your producers for the show. They asked me what I'm hot on. They then tell you, and you set me up for success. This is the Thunder setting Russ up for success. That's what good teammates do. It's what we do with each other. And guess what? Oklahoma City, you know who they're best at when they have the ball? Russell Westbrook. So the idea that it's a bad thing that he gets a rebound to start a fast break rather than Steven Adams is nonsense. It doesn't hurt them. And sure, so okay, maybe he deserved this year to average 9.7 rebounds or you know what? Cost him a full rebound a game, 9.0 rebounds instead of 10 rebounds a game. I don't care about that. Now, keep in mind, though, Colin, I also wouldn't have voted him MVP last year based on the triple-double, and I wouldn't vote him MVP this year based on the triple-double. But I got no problem with Russ goosing a few rebounding numbers. I think it's fine.
1 minute left. I strongly believe in history. And for 20 years, Bill Belichick, even with Brady in his prime, always had a succession plan at quarterback, and it was a young quarterback. Tom's going to be 41 during the season. They have no succession plan. I believe there are 4 picks in the first 63. They'll move up and potentially get the number 1 pick. You don't think it's the right thing to do?
Listen, I think the Patriots have existed for 31 years in the NFL before Tom Brady got there. They won 0 championships. They made 2 Super Bowls. In the 17 years since he's been the starter, they've made 8 Super Bowls. They've won 5 championships. Bill Polian once, when asked about why they don't practice without Peyton Manning, he said, without Peyton Manning, we're bleeped, and we don't practice bleep. Your goal is to win as many Super Bowls as possible. Right? You know what? They, whether they will admit it or not, drafting Jimmy Garoppolo was a terrible decision. You spent a second-round pick on him. You got 7 quarters of football out of him. You got a second-round pick back for him. You know what they could have used? A defensive back with that pick that maybe, I don't know, could have played in the Super Bowl. If I'm the Pats in my last few years of Brady, I am trying to rack up as many Super Bowls as possible. I'll deal with the succession plan later. And by the way, as far as, well, what if Brady misses a couple games this year? A rookie quarterback this year does not help you more than Brian Hoyer does. I would go all in on upgrading that defense, that wide receiving core, or trading the picks for veteran players. I want to rack up rings. We'll deal with post-Brady, post-Brady.
You're welcome. I goosed your television stats in the last 5 minutes. You're totally welcome.
Appreciate that.
All right, Nick Wright.
Absolutely. I hope I goosed I almost said something I shouldn't have. Good to talk to you later, Colin.
All right, Nick Wright, first things first. We're going to play high end, low end, which is what every general manager in the NFL is forcing every one of his scouts to do with all these quarterbacks. High end, low end. Coming up next, does it bother you? Should it bother you? I'll explain next.